Welcome back. Okay, Greg, opportunity to explain as to why is that the way it is now with developing and developed countries.
Well, all this happening in the Western world, it's the irreversible effect of globalization. If they sneeze, we catch a cold. That's how things are. Many of the Asian countries, even China, is highly dependent on foreign investments. And where did foreign investments come from? It's from the Western countries. And who is the consumer of the products that they produce? It's also the Western countries. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. And certainly, we will be affected whatever.
But we're doing better. Why are we still not investment grade?
We
versus
are not,
the likes of U.S., Italy?
Well, all of this comes out of these ratings because Greece has been downgraded. I think it was yesterday, Italy has been downgraded. Nobody mentioned it, but I think 2 weeks after the U.S. was downgraded by Standard & Poor's, Japan was also downgraded. No? The function of ratings is volatility and liquidity. So in the West, it's very volatile.
Yes.
And yet, it's still very liquid. People still go to U.S. dollars, the bond market, Swiss francs, and gold. So, but in our case, we may not be volatile. In most countries in Asia, it's not volatile, but we don't have the liquidity. Nobody is really buying.
Liquidity.
Nobody is really buying and selling. If I buy your bonds,
easily conversion into cash.
If I buy your bonds, who do I sell it to? Who's going to buy and sell it? Unlike because they have a huge market.
Like them, there are many suckers.
There's many people who try to make a fax back. And remember, our $100 million, so big to us, that's peanuts to them. They're talking about billions of dollars. So nobody pays attention to our own issues because it is not that big and that important. And we certainly won't sell to one buyer all our everything. So the liquidity is not there. It's not volatile, but liquidity is not there.
But do you see like the U.S. dollar now still being used as for a while?
Oh, yes. I think you could see that everybody was predicting a double-dip inflation. Gold was running at $1,900,
higher than platinum.
$2,200. And yet, the U.S. dollar strengthened. Because what currency will you go to? It's U.S. dollars, Swiss francs, and gold that is doing very well. There's no other currency. Where will you go to?
How about a basket of the others?
Polish currency.
Well, you go to EU, the European euro, the euro. But the euro is so much affected. It's Germany and France.
Based on your experience, Greg, is the Eurozone going to disintegrate? Kakalas ba ang Greece, tapos magsosolo ang Germany?
It will all depend on, I think, Germany and France, whether they're going to bail out Greece, Italy, and Portugal, Spain, and these are the ones that are affected. But I also think, I'm not an economist, but I think it's going to be very difficult to disentangle the European Union.
It will cost more money, though, to disintegrate rather than to solve the debt crisis.
Solve the problem. And if you follow the Greek tragedy, I would call it, they're doing very hard. They're trying very hard to really, meet the demands of the European Union, increasing retirement pay, all these civil service costs.
Also.
Yes, they're really trying very hard because they know that it will be disastrous for them to be out of the European Union.
So, going back to governance in the Philippines, yung mga accounting behavior saka governance standards, di ba pwedeng apply naman yun sa mga government agencies?
This last few years...
What happened to their accountants? You cannot release a check or disburse cash kung walang accountant, di ba?
But this is all fueled by tone at the top.
Kasi the government is the biggest corporation of the Philippines, 1.8 trillion pesos.
Biggest employer, biggest funder, biggest everything.
Yeah.
But it's tone at the top. That's, I think, in the past, if you see your boss doing something, it's tone at the top. What do you do?
I'm a believer in the fact that government can indeed be clean.
Oh, yes. There are so many, my own experience with working with government people, is there are so many good people in government.
Yeah, my own experience that they're very competent, they're very educated, they're articulate, they're assertive, and they are very jealous of their perks.
Yes, they are, but there's also a lot of technocrats there who just do their jobs day in, day out, and follow the rules. Unfortunately, the few who do not is the one that lands on the papers.
A few, 2%.
And affects everybody.
The scalawags are 2%. 2% of 1.5 million, that's plenty of people.
That's what I think BIR Commissioner Kim Henare said. So I think I forgot the figure, but it's something like 10%. There's only 10% bad
ang
eggs
dami nun,
in the
150,000.
BIR. And
That's
you're,
more than the number of
but you're
LGUs in this
indicting,
country.
but you're indicting everybody.
The whole thing.
Diba? The whole customs is the same.
Yeah, but they can
That's the
bring the
issue.
house down.
They could.
General Garcia nga brought down the reputation of the AFP to the sowers.
You know, if people are going to do bad, they're going to do bad. I don't think any governance procedures, good internal controls, if the intention is to do, to
Kayo, Greg, mga
malfeasance,
professional people, di ba? You know the business, you know the ethics, you know the rules, you know the regulations. Di ba pwedeng tumulong naman kayo sa paghuli sa mga yan o paghagupit sa kanila?
Well, yes, we have endorsed, Beth and I sit in the board of MAP, I sit in the Phoenix Foundation. We endorse the initiative of Secretary Purisima, yung Pera ng Bayan, to report via internet or wherever if there's things that you see. Just this lunchtime, we were with Mar Rojas and somebody was also complaining about some government agency that packages things for you so it will be smooth sailing and says, I'm give me the report and I'm conscripting you into our committee that will have, and there's already a lot.
Volunteering your services?
Yes, we do. We have we're in the integrity initiative. We're trying to attract all corporations. It takes two to tango. Di ba? There's a corruptor and a corruptee.
Sabi ng PCCI, di ba may konting corruption basta may ginagawa lang?
Well, that's another way to look at it.
Di ba tama
That's
yun?
another way to look at it.
You don't reinvent the wheel. Kung mayroong corruption, pakisamahan mo na yan. At least magtrabaho
Remember, in the 70s and the 80s, we were also being compared with Indonesia and Malaysia. Why is there, I would say, just equal sense that the corruption is also there, and why are they so much growing ahead of us? So there is a business model, I would suppose, for everything. There's Singapore, very successful, but then there's also these other countries that are also very successful in spite of the lack of transparency and good governance. So there's a business model for everyone, I suppose. Some things work for others, some does not.
And this good governance cry of the president actually has done as well.
Oh yes, it is. I think I have to attribute this to Shell Habito when he said the growth of the economy in the last year is due to economics. Foreign investments down, infrastructure spending is down, and yet the economy grew. How do you explain?
Because of consumption.
Because of consumption
According to
confidence
Sandy Bora,
and also local investors, Filipinos themselves investing.
So that's confidence.
Yes, that's confidence in the new administration. I think that's confidence in the new administration. Even jobs are up, profitability is up, not that the levels that was expected because of the slowdown this first half.
Yes.
But he attributes that, and I tend to agree, that there's no other change except for change in leadership.
So if the government actually sort of cranks up their spending in infrastructure on top of that, that would be so much better.
Because I think the second half statistics say we're 53% behind the government spending in infra. So that could really pump prime the economy. And I hope, who was this that said, a U.S. cabinet member in Bush's time that said that let's not waste this crisis. We are in crisis, all these calamities. This is now the right time to do your infra to avoid future calamities.
Kasi na-notice ko, Greg, the government of Pinoy during the first half did not spend 140 billion pesos of program infra. Because of that, the GDP rate went down from 8.4% in the first half of 2010 to 4%, less than half.
It's 3.4% the last second quarter.
3.4.
3.4%. That's
less than half. 4% of that GDP is 9 trillion. 4% of 9 trillion, Greg. Ano ba yan? 360 billion.
Oh, but
360 billion. For one, para naman siguro hindi man ako yung 140, nawalan tayo ng 360 billion of economic activity. That's bad. And because we lost 360 billion of economic activity, we lost probably, in my computation, 300,000 jobs.
No.
We miscreating 300,000 jobs.
For the first time in many, many years, for the last 10 years, the Philippine economy was creating about 1 million jobs a year. Government
The
does not think 1
Philippine
million
economy
jobs.
creates 1 million jobs a year.
But
That
this
is
year-
how big the economy is. This economy is worth $288 billion.
I agree.
Probably more in terms of purchasing power parity.
Oh, but
This
the first year
economy
of
has
this
a market
president-
of 100 million people.
But the first year of this president, we created 1.4 million jobs.
Oh,
In
1.
spite of less government spending, in spite of less foreign direct investments. How do we explain that?
But how do you explain that's in spite of government? Because in terms of quarterly growth, the net addition to growth under the Aquino administration is exactly 0.6%. You check the quarter-to-quarter growth in the last 1 year and a half.
But things are
It could have
going
been bad.
yeah.
It could have been worse. Everybody else is
It could not have been worse because we are coming from very strong position, 8.4%
That's
in the
right.
last semester of GMA, who is the most unpopular president in history.
Okay, but things are going to change, and we're going to cut to a short break. You're watching BizNews. We'll be right back. We'll continue this discussion.
But there's a limit to